Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition of 18 Minutes with 180 Markets. Selfishly, I'm really excited today because I'm a big fan of wellness and self-improvement and being, the best version of yourself. And with us today, we have Ben Rohr from Eve Investments. And despite the name, Eve is actually a wellness and tea company. Tea, not the tea that you drink, but the essential oil tea. Anyway, Ben, welcome to 18 Minutes with 180 Markets.
Thank you, Greg. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Hey, Ben, just tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, well, I've got a really varied background, Greg. I'm sort of finance trained. I'm a chartered accountant. Back in the 90s, I went through that commerce degree, and then I sort of moved into banking, where I worked for a couple of large banks, both in Europe and in Australia, before I was lured effectively by emerging innovative type companies. And I moved into fintech, IT. I was in the US for a number of years where I was involved in a software company, but I've also had a background in property as well back in Australia, some emerging innovative industries within that sector that I got involved in, also exposed into Asia. So I have a very checkered background that has a diverse wealth of experience, but probably the commonality is a desire to be involved in emerging or innovative sectors of the economy.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that it sounds like the one thing you have been consistently is on the cutting edge of whatever is on trend at the moment.
Exactly.
And with that, obviously, health and wellness, as you would well be aware, is one of the emerging trends. And maybe tell us about how Eve fits into that trend, if you will, with your, just from a high level from your product base.
From our product base, I mean, probably the core thing that aligns us into that sector is our 2,000 acres of tea tree plantation up in near Byron Bay, about an hour southwest of Byron Bay. Now, a large chunk of that plantation is tea tree growing in its natural state. It's a fully organic plantation. And that is really at the heart of Eve Investments. We own that asset outright. We have a traditional crop there, a traditional organic tea tree crop that we distill oil from and sell that offshore, mainly in the US. And we have this old growth plantation where these tea trees have been growing for over 35,000 years. So we have this base within the company about building off this wealth that comes from this asset to develop these products. And our product mix at the moment that we have launched via the brand Maluka Australia involves 4 honeys. 2 of them are tea tree honeys. We've got a hemp seed infused honey, and we've got a regular multifloral organic everyday honey, as well as a bio-fermented honey probiotic concentrate. So they're the 5 products that we have. They all focus on health. They do leverage off natural, organic, and they really slot in nicely, we believe, into that wellness sector.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, just so everybody is aware, when we say tea trees, then we are talking about a product that is not the tea that we drink. It's effectively an essential oil type of product, and it's in honey as well. Is that accurate, or is it something of it?
Yeah. So, and to be really specific on this, Greg, and it's really important because tea tree comes from a species of tree called Melaleuca alternifolia, which is colloquially called tea tree. Now, tea tree oil, a lot of your listeners or the people looking at this are probably familiar with tea tree oil. It's renowned for its antimicrobial and antibacterial properties. It's incredibly strong, and people use it in a lot of cosmetic products, in cleaning products, in shampoos, and it's known because it's got this strong antibacterial function. Now, those medicinal compounds sit in the leaves of the tea tree, and we distill that oil out of those leaves.
Right.
Now that is how we produce the tea tree oil, and that is distinct from any other products out there that the other products generally don't use the word tea tree because tea tree is known to relate to this Melaleuca alternifolia, but they'll have another name, and it does come from a different species of tea tree.
Right. And just speaking of, other companies, obviously the wellness trend, there are no lack of brands out there, but how is, really getting your direct to consumer message out to to people to let everybody know what makes you special?
Yeah. So, our story is really unique because we have this great, amazing asset that, in an amazing, pristine, clean part of the world that requires a bit of telling. And when you incorporate that into our honey products or our concentrate drink product, it requires a degree of education. And so when you go through traditional brick and mortar channels, you have to educate the distributor, who then has to educate the retailers, who then has to educate the staff that they have working within their stores, who then have to educate the consumer. So I don't know if you've played Chinese whispers, Greg, but it often takes a long time to get your key messages to cut through to the consumer that way. And you're trying to tell a story. I have our everyday honey here on a tiny little label that is sitting amongst 20 other products that might be screaming the same key hierarchical words. So you need to educate these key influences within that chain, and that is a real challenge. Direct to consumer via, say, an e-commerce channel, our websites, you can engage directly with the customers, make sure the message is accurate, make sure the message is aligned to the consumer that is looking for something like your product. So you can explain to them, this everyday honey, it's raw, it's organic, it comes from a really unique region, our bees are really well looked after. You can talk about these things and you can explain to them why that is different to someone else, whether it's a really challenging thing to do when you've got these layers of in-between people.
Yeah, but I think what's great in 2020, if you will, is that you can speak to the consumers directly via social media, and you could do that, help speed up that education process, if you will. And I'm sure you see it, people that don't do that get left behind. But also part of telling that message is, your growth story, if you will, which is a great story. Can you maybe talk about your expansion into the United States, into China, maybe, focus a little bit more on China, but on both of those, because those are clearly where the upside is for the business.
Yeah, it's incredibly advantageous for us that with the China story, we have a vested party who has taken a stake in us earlier this year and has a significant distribution network within China. That network is over a million members large, and it is a captured network. And what I mean by that is that, for instance, with our honey products that we've sent over there and our tea tree oil that we've sent over there, we are the only honey in that network. We are the only tea tree oil in that network. And that partner, is a shareholder of us. So that partner is vested and is determined to help sell our product rather than just put it into their network and let their sales team, as a lot of traditional distributors do, try and work it out. And if it doesn't work, they won't support it. We have a partner who has a successful network. They're very large, and they've got an interest in making this successful. And so it makes it really unique. And we don't compete in that network with other honey products or other people that have health and wellness type drinks, because we are the only version within that captured network that is getting presented to that market, which is really unique and advantageous for us in relation to China.
Yeah, because, and I think it's so important for our investors to understand, in retail, it's about your product, your marketing, and your distribution channel. And if you get one of those wrong, your business is going to suffer massively. So you really have to have all those interests aligned. which is quite a challenge for you, Ben, isn't it, at times?
It is a real challenge. But the great thing is in China, we do have this successful partner who is vested and is willing to
Right.
make it work. And we've seen, that they only came on at the beginning of the year, and we've seen instant success. They've already made a number of orders, and we anticipate it to continue. And we have plans for a number of different product rollouts off the back of their advice back to us. So we're seeing some really instant traction in that market. On the US side,
Yeah, that's what I was just going to ask you.
it's been a really different story, because within that network, we've decided to go the Amazon channel. Amazon, 50% of US consumers that begin a search for a product begin it on Amazon, which is just a phenomenal statistic. What's really interesting in the US is that Amazon have over 100 million Prime subscribers. So they're people that pay a membership fee to shop on that Amazon channel, which is just a phenomenal market. There isn't a market like it, e-commerce market like it anywhere else in the world. So we thought honey, being a unique product, really strong, stable, long shelf life, can work in Amazon's distribution centers. Here's an opportunity for us to get in front of those eyes when people are searching for natural, raw, organic honey. Here's an option that we've got. And we saw a position there where a lot of producing organic honey is really, really challenging. You need to be able to control up to 5 kilometers radius for the bee to fly. And Australia has a natural advantage with a lot of land and a lot of space. So we can produce this organic honey. The US struggle to produce it. So most of the organic honey that is in the US is from another location. And so we saw an opportunity there to introduce our product there late last year. And we've had a really phenomenal success in getting traction, particularly with our raw everyday honey, where we took off in a great way, particularly over this COVID period where traffic on Amazon increased a great deal, and people were looking for these health and wellness type products more so than normal. And so we got our timing right there, and we've now been recognized on that platform. This honey is actually what they call Amazon Choice. Amazon give it a special category to say, this is a product we really love, so come and have a look at it. And so we've done really well with that. And we're working hard to get our other honeys growing in the same way. They're getting a lot of traction as well, our hemp seed honey and our tea tree honey, which are higher price honeys, but probably more sitting in that medicinal, different functionality for a consumer.
Right. And also, I suppose that, with the tyranny of distance and everything, in some ways it's easier to manage an e-commerce platform from afar than to really have to be on the ground with the bricks and mortar stores where you really need to talk to those distribution agents, and have a coffee with them, so to speak.
Yeah, and also, you get into a traditional distributor's DC, that product will sit there unless the sales team is convincing retailers to place orders.
Absolutely.
It's one thing to get into a distribution network, but then to actually push it into where it needs to be sold, you need to do a lot of work. You need to convince all the sales team within the distribution network. And you also, it's a push-pull approach. Whether Amazon's amazing, you can sit there with a dashboard and you can see immediately what people are searching and get that data feedback, and then try and leverage its advertising channels, but also what you're doing on your own website to build awareness of the product and the brand, to get people buying this product. And I can manage that from anywhere in the world at any given time, which is amazing.
Right. And speaking of, maybe that's a good time to transition into your finance background and the financials of the business, because obviously investors care about that, for sure. At the end of the day, we want to make a profit. Right now, you are going through a growth phase, I think it's fair to say. And in a growth phase, with a consumer-facing product, you need to market it aggressively with your own capital. Can you just discuss the capital in the business and just where you see it? And then also maybe, how do you look at when you're advertising, whether it's in China or the United States, to say something is working, so we want to throw some more dollars behind it, because that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Um, Look, we're in a fortunate position, Greg. I mean, I know you talk, we're a micro cap stock, and you're looking at, a lot of micro cap stocks are always 12 months from the next capital raise. We're in a really fortunate position in that with the Chinese partner that we took on at the beginning of the year, we've got a really healthy cash balance. I think at the moment we've got $6 million in cash. We're anticipating having to do another capital raise. We believe that we've got enough money to grow the brands that we want to grow and the products that we need to sell with what we've got cash in bank, and to leverage off the assets that we already own. So that's an awesome position to be in, because it enables us to do exactly what you said next, which is look at the opportunities, get the data, support the distribution networks that you've established, look at new regions in the world where you would like to roll your products out because they fit, there's a market fit to it or a market opportunity to it, and then feed the marketing dollar to be able to grow the revenue the way we need to grow it. So we've moved into that growth phase. We've established a brand. We've got to grow that brand, grow the brand awareness, and we've got to sell product. So we're expecting to see a growth profile on revenue. Obviously, there would be an associated marketing spend that's attached to it, but that's managed within the confines of what we've got in our bank account and what's been successful and what's not been successful. The amazing thing about the established distribution networks that we've got is they're relatively cost effective. We're building out a distribution model. We're not building out sales teams in regions. We're not building out a massive company that requires heavy resource management. We're building out a distribution network. So what we're doing is we're building out brand awareness. So distributors are looking at our products and noticing our products and putting us in a decent negotiating position to establish traditional distribution channels, but at the same time, our direct-to-consumer model is leading the way in us being able to get instant data feedback about new products, about what's working, what's not working. So we're allocating the capital in the most efficient way.
Right, because that's the key, don't you think? Which is that you've got to move your capital where you're getting the best return on capital. If you put out $1 of advertising, it generates $2. That's fantastic. If it only generates $1.10, it's not. You want to move a different direction.
Yes.
Anyway,
and that's another thing about the DTC model, which is awesome because you get instant feedback. So from a shareholder's perspective, you want to make sure the company's spending the money in the most efficient way, right? You don't want them. And so, when you get instant feedback, you can switch on and off things very quickly and you can make changes very quickly. So if you're sitting in a brick and mortar channel, it might be months before you realize there's a problem with your product. And so you can't make that change. And then when you do make that change, it doesn't get reflected for 6 months. And so, but by then you may have spent a lot of shareholder money in a wrong area. With having a combination of both, you're establishing a means by which you've got something that's on song and is working and that the messaging is working. So then you can go to your traditional channels and say, this is how our consumers, this is what they're telling us they like about it and what works about it. So if that can work in your distribution channel, this is how you should do it. And then that makes their job a lot easier. And it also gives us a degree of accountability on how they're performing because we know that we can do it this way. So they need to be able to do it that way. And it enables us to negotiate, high level of KPIs to get the results, to get a better, efficient return for shareholders' money.
Yeah, and on that note, Ben, I think that in conclusion, you've got the right product on the right trend, the right distribution network, which is really, again, it's so key. And, you're throwing the marketing dollars, on a smart way behind it. I think it really, when you put the sum of the parts together, it's not probably one part in itself that makes the whole thing. It's the whole, 1 + 1 + 1 makes 5. Ben, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. I think it's an incredibly interesting story, and really excited to share the journey with you over the next 12 to 24 months.
Greg, thank you. And I hope some of your listeners check out Eve, our ticker's EVE. And also, if they're looking to buy some awesome products, Meluka Australia, MELUKA Australia.com.au. It's an awesome company. We're an awesome story. Get behind an Australian success story.
Thanks.